Love is love. It shouldn't matter whether it's an LGBT marriage or an interracial marriage or a combination of that or anything outside of that, as long as it's between two consenting adults and not more than two consenting adults. So, I originally had another video planned for today, but I decided to release this one instead. I just think it's important for people to talk about equality, and I noticed that my Twitter feed recently was full of hate. The reason it's full of hate is because Joe Biden recently passed the Respect for Marriage Act. Now, before I get into the video, I do want to give a brief explanation of what the Respect for Marriage Act actually is, according to Wikipedia. And the next little part I'm going to read here is from Wikipedia. They've got all the research, all the links, all that stuff. If you want to go check it out, go to Wikipedia and search it. The Respect for Marriage Act, according to Wikipedia, it's a landmark United States federal law passed by the 117th United States Congress and signed into law by President Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
It repeals the Defense of Marriage Act, requires U.S. federal government to recognize the validity of same-sex and interracial civil marriages in the United States, and it also protects religious liberties. Its first version in 2009 was supported by former Republican U.S. Representative Bob Barr, the original sponsor of DOMA, which is the Defense of Marriage Act, and former President Bill Clinton, who signed DOMA in 1996. Iterations of the proposal were put forth in the 111th, 112th, 113th, 114th, and 117th Congresses. Okay, Joe, I just want to say that I think this is a big step in the right direction, though not everyone thinks so. In fact, that's exactly what I want to cover in this video. Because Joe Biden passed the law, people started going to Twitter to rant and rave about how this happened. Now, what I read off, I got from Wikipedia, and Wikipedia goes into more detail about it, though I don't trust it entirely, but Wikipedia does require people to verify sources. If what I said in the video intro is correct, feel free to blame Wikipedia. Also, if what I said is incorrect in any way, feel free to let me know with sources where you got your information. Having said all that, it does state in the law that it is not forcing people to perform marriages or change their beliefs. It simply states that the U.S. government recognizes this type of marriage. Alright, Laverne, you do realize that you are able to talk about Jesus using a pronoun. In fact, religious people commonly use pronouns to talk about Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
If I can't use a pronoun to talk about Jesus Christ, am I just supposed to use the name Jesus Christ every time I talk about Jesus Christ?
Jesus Christ.
I think that repeating the name Jesus Christ is going to get repetitive and redundant when I talk about Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
And don't use the word him or the word he to talk about Jesus Christ, even though him and he are pronouns.
Jesus Christ.
Also, did you count how many times I said Jesus Christ there instead of using the word him?
Jesus Christ.
Also, as I said before, did you know that the words he, him, his, and himself are all considered to be pronouns? You're telling me that I can't refer to Jesus as him or he?
My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my...
They're slightly changing the wording of the previous laws. From what it sounds like, they're making an effort to make it more accepted for people to get married.
Marriage.
And they're trying to make it so that it's more accepted for people to get married.
Marriage is what brings us together today.
They're making the effort, they're trying. They even said that in the law that they're not taking away any religious freedoms.
And why is there fear behind your eyes?
I know that's going to come up, that's why I'm clarifying that. They're simply trying to make it more accepted for LGBTQ plus people to get married. To answer your question, kind of bluntly, because gender identity is different from getting pregnant. Also, when a person is 12 years old, they're trying to figure out who they are. I don't really know if you understand this, but a person trying to figure out who they are is different from them getting pregnant. Just that simple. As far as I know, there hasn't been anything released stating that Joe Biden has cured cancer. As far as I know, Joe Biden is not that kind of doctor. Having said that, as far as I know, there hasn't been anything released stating that you have cured cancer either. If curing cancer is something that you want to do or something that you want to be done, then you can go try finding a cure for cancer.
NANI?!
Nobody's holding you back, Tim. I do have a question for you, Mayra. Wouldn't God count as anyone? If God counts as anyone, why would we try to offend God when we don't want to offend anyone? Also, if God does not state that we should love people and treat people with respect, then why wouldn't we want to love people and try to treat people with respect? In fact, saying that God said something about hating people, or saying that Jesus said anything like that about how one should hate people, wouldn't that go against the 10 Commandments? Because thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, and saying that he said something that he didn't is taking his name in vain by saying those things about him that he did not say. By passing all of this hate against people, you are going against the word of your God, and your God probably finds that offensive due to the fact that you are going against his word. And if you're going to say something about people getting fixed or cured, A, what is there to be fixed or cured? And B, when Jesus went around doing that stuff, he only fixed and cured people who wanted to be fixed and cured, according to the Bible. Well, you know, the government of the United States functions under the guise of a democracy, regardless of whether it's seen like that or not. And the reason I say that is because there's so many people out there who see different things. Or there's some people that don't see it that way. And another thing is that people don't see that it comes from both sides of the government. In fact, we're putting all of our power in the hands of a small elite, which could be seen as something that is a big part of authoritarianism.
Jesus Christ.
Now, when it comes to drag queens, there's nothing inherently bad about dressing in drag. It has nothing to do with what you call sexual deviance. In fact, sexual deviance is an interest in anything other than, or I guess it's an interest in something other than a consenting human partner. I thought that someone who is heavily involved in politics and who has had this much of an education, when compared to Don Jr., would know how to spell privilege. I don't know if you caught that, but he misspelled privilege in his tweet. On that note, I want to say that this privilege is what the United States is based on. Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. That's privilege, basically, in a way. Also, the only way to move forward as a people is to become accepting of other people, to learn as much as possible, to redefine our perceptions with what we learn, and to pass all of this on to future generations. Hate and lack of acceptance, whether it is against people or against other ideas, is what will hold us back.
My crew is big and it keeps getting bigger. That's 'cause Jesus Christ is my name.
Just because there's something that's legal, it does not mean that it cannot be changed. It does not mean that it cannot be added on to or taken away from. If things haven't been changed, a lot of the things that were legal hundreds of years ago in the United States would still be legal today in the United States. We'd still be doing things today that many people out there would disagree with. Like I said before, the thing that qualifies it as, or like I wanted to say before, the thing that qualifies this as drag is someone who dresses up as the opposite gender in an exaggerated way. That's kind of an oversimplification of what drag is, but that's essentially drag. It has nothing to do with propaganda. In fact, if you think dressing up is propaganda, you're mistaken. Propaganda is political. There should be nothing political about dressing up in drag, because there's nothing, I'm not going to say there's absolutely nothing political about dressing up, but for the most part, and drag is included in this, there's generally nothing political about dressing up. As for what Pizza Hut did, if you don't know, they have a book on their Book It book program where someone dresses up for a costume party. This book is supposed to celebrate the universal childhood experience of dressing up and the confidence that comes with putting on a costume. If you want to boycott a fast food place, just get ready to start making your own food at home and becoming a little bit more healthy. In fact, I, along with other people, would appreciate you staying home and becoming more healthy by cooking your own food. So, where is this class? I think I need to pick up a toy for myself. I need to find some sort of entertainment for when I spend all day at home making videos and I need to take a break. If I pick up a toy like that, the good news is that it'll barely be used because I'm so busy with my life, whether it's going out and having fun somewhere else or staying at home making YouTube videos. I'm going to be keeping myself busy. And I keep myself busy enough where I won't need to think about that type of thing in order to make myself happy. I really enjoy being happy down there, but that's not the biggest issue in my life. I would like to say that I'm taking the toy out of the hands of an LGBTQ person, but in that case, if that were true, it would be like a gift exchange because I'm pansexual. Also, did you know that there are limitations and laws in place on that kind of toy? You generally need to be at least 18 years of age, if not older, in order to be using that kind of toy. Going out with the intent to use or distribute to anyone who is under the age of 18 years old has the possibility of jail time. I don't think anyone who respects themselves would be intentionally giving that kind of toy to a young child. In fact, a drag queen focuses more on what they're doing for their drag outfit and how they're acting, and generally do not focus on breaking the law like this. In fact, that also applies to people who are not LGBTQ as well, generally. Anyone who has any type of respect for themselves does not consider giving that type of toy to a minor. Just because the option is there does not mean that everybody has the same messed up mind as you. Because it takes a messed up mind to think, oh, sex toys for kindergartners? Yay! So we've got another slippery slope argument. I don't know much about Ben Shapiro other than that, from what I've heard, this person says stuff that's supposed to be divisive. I'm gonna go out on the limb and guess that Ben Shapiro is the kind of person who believes in trickle-down economics, even though 99% of the money in trickle-down economics stays with the people in charge. I did do a bit of research on Ben Shapiro, though, and I'm gonna say that this twat waffle is about as disrespectful as I would have expected. This uncultured beer foam talks shit about people, then backs down and deflects when he's called out on his ignorant statements. He has a titanic intellect in a world full of icebergs due to his unwillingness to learn, and he has all the personality of Saran Wrap. Having said that, the only slippery slope this bill has is the slippery slope of heading towards equality. Or this experiment in artificial stupidity comes up with many different fallacies himself. I'm not saying that I'm above making fallacies. In fact, I'm sure that I've said a lot of different types of fallacies that I put in my videos. I'm just saying that this man's train of thought does not have a caboose, and that he should probably look into doing more research and being more accepting of other people. Based on what I've seen, he seems to have the IQ of a salad bar. The only slippery slope that I see with this bill being ratified is that there's a possibility of having people be accepted in society more and people being happier. In fact, I do want to say, before I go any further, that this type of... When people say that this is a slippery slope, they often bring up pedophilia or bestiality. I want to say a few things first, or before I go any further. First, the slippery slope, people often bring these things up because of what they've seen and based on the news that they often call fake. An example of this is with Kevin Spacey. I'm not getting into too much detail. I might talk about Kevin Spacey in a future video. I don't know. Don't get your hopes up. But Kevin Spacey got caught with somebody who was underage back in the 80s. So 40-something years ago. The media ran with it when they found out. And when he got called out on it, he said that he was doing it because he was gay.
I'm gay.
Being gay does not necessarily have a direct correlation with what Kevin Spacey did. Kevin Spacey just used that as an excuse to deflect the question. There are plenty of gay adults in the world who have had meaningful relationships between, themselves and other consenting adults. But Kevin Spacey chose to get it on with a child. Gay or not, he was caught with a child. Just like there were plenty of church pastors and, people who were running churches and all that stuff who were caught with children and blamed it on either being gay or emotionally suppressed. Anyone who has not been working with glue a bit too much generally does not go around blaming the church for pedophilia. And anyone who didn't ride the tilt-a-whirl for too long should be able to see that there's no direct correlation between LGBTQ plus rights and what people bring up with bestiality and pedophilia. I wish I didn't have to say this, but Ben Shapiro and people who have the slippery slope mentality, at least on this issue, tend to be knitting with only one needle. I don't know how to say this, dude. I know what this person is trying to say, but I don't know how to say what I'm wanting to say. So I'll just come out and say what I have written in the script here. Gay people have not always been able to get married in the United States. Most people, myself included, are too young to remember when gay people, whatever happened in the 60s, I wasn't even alive then. I don't remember any of it. Just because this bill was passed does not mean that it was always like this. It may be a small step in the legal system, but it's still a step in the right direction here. We're still moving towards equality. On that note, there is something else I want to say. Toilet paper wasn't always a thing. Some people have had to use a sponge on a stick. And for those of you who don't know what a sponge is, it's an animal that people use to absorb stuff, and it picks up everything. It's like duct tape. It's like the sticky side of duct tape where it picks up everything. Also, some people in today's society who still don't have the ability to use toilet paper. If you want to focus on the toilet paper angle, why don't you help other people get the ability to use toilet paper? Other people have said this a lot, and I'm repeating what's already been said here. Just because it's been said multiple times does not make it more true or untrue. In fact, in this case, the repetition of this is because of how true it is. A person's gender identity and biological sex may not be the same thing. That being said, I do want to add on a few more things. First off, there are people who do not cleanly fit into the dichotomy of male versus female. If we're going off of chromosomes, there are people out there who have 2 X chromosomes and a Y chromosome. If we're going off of reproductive parts, which is creepy as hell, but there are people who are born with both male and female parts as well. Therefore, things still aren't as simple as being born male and being born female. On that note, there are also societies that see more than just male and female. One of the more common things that's brought up in these arguments is Native Americans, where the traditional Native American beliefs see two-spirit people, which means that the two-spirit people don't cleanly fit into male and female dichotomies. Even though they were born one way or the other, they just feel it doesn't apply to them, or whatever the case is. At this point, it isn't just male and female anymore. At this point, it's more about equal rights and not about whatever is making you arrogant enough to not listen to other people. Finally, we have some good news in this video. Trans people are being recognized in Scotland, and it's good news. I enjoy seeing news stories that recognize LGBTQ+ rights in this way, because it means that there are more people being seen for who they are. Even though the United States is slowly moving in that direction, I just wish that more people would recognize LGBTQ+ people for who they are. I want to clarify a few things here before I end the video. I made this video because, people were talking about the Respect for Marriage Act on Twitter. And I noticed that many of the people who were complaining on Twitter, somehow, some of these people think that two consenting adults loving each other is wrong in some way. Although I do not think that love should be politicized, marriage is still controlled by the government. It should be illegal between two consenting adults, regardless of whether they are straight or part of the LGBTQ+ community. It shouldn't matter whether someone is straight, gay, or otherwise. Also, I want to add, I've had a lot more stuff planned for the script that didn't make it into the video. B, part of the script, whether I choose to include it or not, part of the script for a brief time was talking about Kevin Spacey earlier in this video. There are a couple of things that I want to say. Kevin Spacey wound up making advances toward a 14-year-old child back in the 80s. I want to clarify that this action is not LGBTQ+, just because of the whole advances on a 14-year-old child thing. Because that's wrong. That has nothing that correlates directly with being part of the LGBTQ community, just because it has Kevin Spacey making advances on a boy. What Kevin Spacey did is wrong, regardless of whether they are gay or not. On that note, I have also wanted to start making more videos about LGBTQ+ topics, and I've been wanting to make myself more known by talking about these topics. Although I am pansexual and part of the LGBTQ+ community, it is not an easy topic for me to talk about. The reason I feel that this is a difficult topic for me to talk about is because there are so many different topics within the LGBTQ+ umbrella of topics, and that there's so much for me to talk about, and there's so much that I am probably going to get incorrect at first. If you want me to make more videos on LGBTQ+ topics, feel free to let me know in the video's comments section. Also, I do spend more time on Discord than I would like to admit. If you want to connect with me or with other people who watch my videos, feel free to go to the video description and join my Discord server. If you want to see more videos like this, or if you want to see more of the other videos that I make, feel free to subscribe. I mean, it's free, and you'll get to see more of my sexy face, and you'll get a chance to have a deep conversation with a YouTube legend.